So you know it's going to be a good day when the offensive coordinator comes out slinging like this. So, incomplete pass? Yes. But the aggression, I think, just kind of signals how confident Shanahan is in his offense. So, the DB, he gets his hand in there at the very last minute. It's a lot more difficult catch than it looks. If we're just looking schematically, though, bottom of the screen, Kyle Shanahan is running a route. George Kittle is the underneath receiver. And then in the backfield, I would love to pull the numbers on this because when Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel are in the backfield, this offense is electric. You have both guys running underneath routes. But as you can see, the ball is intended to go to Aiyuk. Schematically, very difficult to stop. So we are 15 weeks into the season, and we still haven't had a team stop this play where we have one wide receiver who, in this case, Ronnie Bell to the top of the screen. He's clearing out the cornerback. And then to the bottom of the screen, Deebo's running this deep over route where he runs over the middle of the field. And if you notice, Deebo comes back to the ball right there. I think that alone is worth showing this play where he just has the awareness to, hey, come back to the ball. If he doesn't, who knows what happens. It looks like the corner's in a good position to make a play, but him coming back to the ball makes all the difference in the world there. So this is just subtle parts of the game that you learn to appreciate from players like Deebo. So this will be the easiest touchdown that Brock Purdy throws probably in his career. Not going to get much more wide open than that. I mean, the 49ers had a few plays like this, but if we're just looking at how he got open, right? So we've talked about that split zone action where the wide receiver comes in motion and he blocks that unblocked edge rusher right here. So there's part one. Part two is if the cornerback, right? So these condensed splits really give defenses fits as far as like not only the blocking wise for the just as far as like their eye level, and then motion that also messes with just the rules. So if we're talking about the cornerback to the top of the screen, he's responsible for the number one wide receiver. That's Juwan Jennings right now. That is no longer Juwan Jennings right now. So the new number one is Deebo and on a route, and we just saw him win on one of these over routes. So that part of the play doesn't really bother me. I think it's, so I mentioned this probably the last couple of weeks where it seems like Purdy's coming down to maybe predetermining where he wants to go with the ball. So he's made up his mind that he's going to Deebo this entire way. And if you watch the corner, he's sitting on this route. And how could you not? Because if you don't, look at the middle of the field, wide open because it's being cleared out by Kittle and Aiyuk. But when I mentioned predetermining it, so if Purdy is truly reading the cornerback to the bottom of the screen, if the corner sits on Deebo, he has Aiyuk deep to the corner. And honestly, it's the entire half of the field to work with. So like that part more than anything, more than like the quote unquote forcing the ball would worry me. And worry is probably too strong of a word, but I guess it would be a coaching point where, hey man, just read the corner. Corner's going to tell you what to do. If he sits on Deebo, throw it to Aiyuk. If he peels off to Aiyuk, throw it to Deebo. Like he will tell you what to do. And instead, that's how you get this near interception incompletion. So the next third down is a great example of Brock not predetermining. So if we watch the top of the screen, first of all, the odds that you have a play call where the wide receivers are 3, 4, 5 yards apart, not ideal, right? So the spacing is kind of wonky. It's off in that sense. But so it's third and long. I mean, it's not a position that you want to be in, but I imagine this route was in practice. This route was open in practice. Whether it's Deebo breaking to the corner or Aiyuk shallow, Brock could have easily chucked the ball deep, like relied on one of his quote-unquote playmakers to make a play, and just assumed that they'd be open. Instead, he checks the ball down, lived to fight another down. It's not like everything doesn't have to be a home run, but I really do think this could have been troublesome where, like with a 23-year-old quarterback, because it probably was open in practice, that he could have just assumed one of those routes was and thrown it up for a potential disaster. Instead, check down to 23, which is always going to work out. Punt, like it's okay to end a drive in a kick. We're not used to seeing that, but Come on, like every drive doesn't have to be a home run. Every play doesn't have to, be this highlight. So I think this was promising to know that Brock was able to check it down here. So on the following third down, you have an isolation route with your best wide receiver to top of the screen, Brandon Aiyuk, and you move the chains. And honestly, if this throw was on a line, it might be intercepted. It's in a position where only Aiyuk can make a play on the pass. But the cornerback does a good job. Like right there, he jumps the route. Look, if that's on a line, maybe he makes that play. But instead, because Brock has just like, honestly, the perfect trajectory on this pass, 49ers are able to move the chains, stay on the field, and have an opportunity to score. So Kyle Shanahan is probably going to be right 7, 8 out of 10 times. But there are going to be times where whether it's the offensive line misses a block, whether he just doesn't have the right play call on, they're going to need Brock to make plays out of structure. And in this situation, center gets bowled over. Brock really is left with no choice but to make a play. But schematically, it's actually a great design. So you have Jordan Mason. He's going to be the player going into short motion here. So the idea is you get all of these defenders to come out with these two. And Aiyuk's open over the middle of the field. Maybe he should break it off sooner. It doesn't matter because he's already on the ground. But Brock doesn't panic, avoids a sack, keeps his eyes down the field. So it goes from potentially 2nd and 14, 15 to 2nd and 1 because you have a quarterback who can make plays out of structure. So watch the center right here. Just bowled over. Like that can't happen. And that happened a couple times in this game where from the time that Brock's looking down the field, he has the opposite color in his face. Takes a big hit here. And I would love to know maybe in the comments if you're at the game how worried you were seeing look, he was just laying flat on the ground. Like wasn't moving, wasn't doing anything. Like it was pretty scary. And then we saw Darnold come in on the next 2 plays, which we'll get to. But I think the improv from Brock is just so sensational. It really helps take this offense to another level. And speaking of good old number 14, first play of the game, Shanahan designs pass play. Could you maybe throw it to McCaffrey streaking over the middle here? Sure. Why make it easy? Honestly, throwing it way over here, throwing Aiyuk open, I should say, is a better option than throwing it way across the field to George Kittle, who has a defender like all over him. As you have a defensive lineman screaming down your throat. This was the encapsulation of a Sam Darnold experience. Like, buddy, what is going on here? So, first throw, not great. Second throw is more of just, accuracy, timing, where I think we take a lot of these for granted. Even with a 23-year-old quarterback, like, if the object here is to throw it to Kittle. Watch Kittle. He's open now, right? Throw it. He's open. What are we waiting on? Still haven't thrown it. Now we decide to throw it. And by then, sure, it hits Kittle in the hands, but from the other replay, it looks like, just not the most accurate throw. Yeah. Your receiver shouldn't have to stretch all the way out, and this is not a small human by any means. So, just in 2 plays there, you're seeing what it looks like when you don't have a quarterback who's in complete command and complete control. All right, so here's 3rd and 2. And this is a play where Brock has to buy some time. Brock has to be patient in the pocket. Brock has to create out of structure after the initial play. And sure enough, he does. So if you watch Juwan Jennings, like my initial reaction when watching this play the first time was like, now he's open, right? But we'll see from the end zone angle. Like I try to look at these plays like from the same vein that like, what is Brock thinking? What's Kittle thinking? What are these players thinking? What's going through their mind? How are they processing it? So he is reading this linebacker who ends up dropping off. So initially he has Kittle, but I imagine Brock's thinking, and he's still looking like in the direction of whether it's Kittle, whether it's Jennings coming through here. He's probably thinking, hey, he's going to keep pushing to that threat, which is Jennings, and there's not going to be a window there. Clearly, there's no window to throw it to Kittle right there because like they have 3 defenders, which probably is wrong, but good job of, hey, just being patient. Scramble rules, right? Somebody's going to eventually uncover, go deep. Sure enough, gives Kittle an opportunity to make a play. 85 does that. And 49ers are able to live to fight another down. So they get an explosive play, again, out of structure. All right, so here is another example of just what the pre-snap motion can do and how it can really just mess with your defensive rules. So Jennings goes across, and now Budda Baker goes across with him. So initially, you have 1, 2, 3 over 2. So you're good, right? You have an extra defender. But that was not the final motion. And when you see this player come across, he's probably going to get the ball. So think about this. Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey. You are going to be wrong. Like if you're 3-on-3, one of those 3 are going to be open. So there's the 3 defenders. And the way it plays out is linebacker on McCaffrey. And when you get a linebacker one-on-one with McCaffrey with no help, it's going to look like this every day of the week. So again, like these motions, like it's a headache. Like it's confusing for me to watch. Like I need to watch these more than one time just to see the rules and whatnot. So I can only imagine having to process what you're seeing in real time. And that's why the result looks like that more often than not. So I want to throw some plays on here that are also just very good schematically, right? Like Shanahan puts the defense in a bind, and he does that here. So here we are. We have Aiyuk and Debo in the slot. And if you just look at the line of scrimmage, Arizona did this quite a bit where they gave the illusion that they were going to bring multiple rushers. So Brock, from this play, in my mind, he's just looking at whoever the middle defender is. And Aiyuk and Debo are going to run mirrored routes where they're just running like a glance route, a bang-a route, a 5-step post. Watch Aiyuk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he breaks to the inside. If Purdy's reading this defender, if he breaks this way, cool, throw it to Debo. If he breaks this way, cool, throw it to Aiyuk. So that alone shows me that Shanahan is willing to attack vertical more than ever. Obviously, the play doesn't go there. Brock checks it down to McCaffrey, which is never a bad option. So it's 1st and 10, and you end up gaining 8, 9 yards. Positive play that you'll take every time. But I mean, if you're just looking at the structure of the play, knowing that you have a defender in the bind guarding your 2 best players 15 yards down the field, that's a hell of a play call. All right, so in this play, it's 2-minute drill right before the half. I believe 26 seconds left. So when the Cardinals didn't have like 6 or 7 guys at the line, they would just rush 3, sometimes even 2. So here they rush 3, drop 8. Purdy gets sped up a little bit, I think because in his peripherals, he's seeing the opposite color flash and thinking, oh, I got to climb the pocket. I got to get out of here. But really, this is where you want him to slow down, right? I acknowledge that there's a 3-man rush. I'm looking down the middle at Debo. In a dream world, he just sets his feet right now and throws the ball. Instead, because he had to move off his spot when he really didn't have to move off his spot, that's why the throw's a bit inaccurate and low. We'll see from this end zone angle. I think gives us the best look. Where you got to think about it from Purdy's angle, right? I think I have pressure. I think I need to climb the pocket. When in reality, just set your feet and throw. Instead, it doesn't happen. What I love about Shanahan, though, is on the very next play, comes back with another timing. So you get Brock back into a rhythm, right? So 1, 2, 3, balls out. Little things like that are what I really appreciate about Shanahan. So this is right after the half. It's 21-13. It's 3rd and 11. So the 49ers could punt the ball back to Arizona, and Arizona could essentially tie the game if they want to. So this is a pretty big play. They give the illusion again that they're going to bring a ton of people. The best way to beat the blitz is just to replace it. So Kittle is going to act like he's blocking, right? And why? Because you have 2 guys who look like they're going to blitz. Budda ends up taking 2 hard steps like he's going to blitz, and then he peels off. As you can see, that does not work. It's too late. Brock does a good job of replacing the blitz, He's gonna get hit naturally just by the protection rules. But I think that was a good job of, getting rid of it hot, throwing to where the defense isn't, and letting your playmakers do the heavy lifting for you. So I think from an offensive line point of perspective, 49ers, they're sliding. Yeah, they're all sliding to the left. They get kind of fooled here because 1, 2, 3, 4. It only ends up being 4. 3 of those guys end up dropping off. McKivitz blocks down like, he's protecting the inside gap, which is right. But if they would have had the right call on, everybody would have had, a hat on a hat. Instead, quarterback gets hit, but he realizes that, gets rid of it quickly, and 49ers get another explosive play against a blitz on 3rd and 11, and instead of punting it back, they have an opportunity to go down and score. All right, so very next play, after 3rd and 11, Shanahan elects to take a shot. So we've seen this play a billion times, right, where one receiver, this time Deebo Samuel, runs off. The other receiver, Brandon Aiyuk, comes all the way across the middle and runs the over route. As you can see, finally, Arizona covers it. Unfortunately for them, the safety doesn't even, I imagine he's thinking somebody's going to be over the top of him. So, second time so far now where instantly he's beat. Purdy ends up with a touchdown when in reality it should have been a sack. So we saw the first double move. We saw the play where Aiyuk and Deebo were both running mirrored routes. Here's another double move. I honestly think based on how this game kind of shook out, it was, quote unquote, supposed to be a big game for Aiyuk. He ended up being the 4th leading receiver, but he could have easily had, 100 if he catches a couple of these double moves. In this situation, to me, it looks like he just picks up the ball late. It's a terrific route. It is a fantastic route. So one of the main coaching points as a route runner, on this double move right here, you need to take 3 to 4 hard steps. You need to drive upfield to gain separation. 1, 2, 3, even 4. He does that. That is very good. I think the issue is just Aiyuk struggles to pick up the ball. He can't find out where the ball is. And I don't know how true this is, but I think that was the real reason that they had to take him off being a punt returner. Because if you think back to when he was a rookie, he was outstanding as a punt returner. But for whatever reason, couldn't feel the ball, couldn't pick up the flight of the ball, and that showed. And that just kind of showed itself again here. So another explosive play where I think the takeaway here is Kyle Shanahan is comfortable throwing the ball down the field, and they just weren't able to connect. They run this play 10 times out of 10. They're going to connect on the 8 other times. Instead, they missed twice in this game. Another thing that I really appreciate about Shanahan is he's going to come back to you. So 2 plays later, Brandon Aiyuk in the slot. To me, this is a read route where Aiyuk has the option to either run the slot fade or break it off right here. Ends up getting yards after the catch, makes one guy miss, makes 2 guys miss. You can see Brock's anticipation where they're on the same page. This, it shouldn't look as easy as it is. So Aiyuk knows that by now, I'm not going to be able to get on top of this defender and run by him because there's too much cushion. So he does a good job of breaking it off. Quarterback recognizes it, see when the ball comes out. He's throwing the ball right now. That is 2 players who are in sync with each other. And they're able to get another explosive play without throwing the ball down the field. So maybe using Aiyuk more in the slot will be something that we see over the next couple months. So just something to keep an eye on. But the chemistry between Purdy and Aiyuk should not go unnoticed. All right, last one. And if you had Deebo Samuel catching a back shoulder fade in this game, I'm going to need some lottery numbers next. Wants to throw the ball down the field, that is comfortable with the weapons that they have to Deebo Samuel. If anything, this is me thinking that Kyle Shanahan is tinkering with some ideas hey, will this work in the playoffs? Will this work in the playoffs? And this is the time to do it, right? Against the Cardinals, against the Ravens, against the Rams, against the Commanders, these last 4 games, see what you can and can get away with. And if Deebo can make these kind of plays, right? Obviously this is a great pass. This is the only place where Deebo can make the reception. But if your receivers are going to be able to haul these in, and your quarterback is going to be able to put the ball in a position like that, I don't know, man. It's going to be nearly impossible to stop the 49ers if they're connected on throws like this. So that's going to do it for the passing. I'm going to come up with something for Christian McCaffrey in the running game because they were electric too. But like the way that they played, the way that they attacked Arizona, I think was pretty telling. And hopefully some foreshadowing of what's to come. Like, look at that, man. Jeez. A foreshadow of what's to come over the next couple months. So please like, comment on what you want to see next. Subscribe if you haven't, if you learned anything. I will be back. We might talk about the defense, but it's probably pretty close to time to turn the page to the Ravens.